Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Kay, and I am here today to review hurricane season, the movie. So if you are not familiar with, if you are not familiar with my channel, I started off with doing hair reviews and hair stuff, but I kind of have gotten interested into doing TV and movie reviews. And lately I recently figured out that I may have a bias towards sports drama. So I was like, well, that's the only thing that really interests me because I did spend a huge chunk of my life playing sports. Just to give a little background, I did play volleyball. I played basketball majority of my life. That's the one sport that I did play majority of my life. And then I also threw shot and disc in field events for track. So today's movie that I will be reviewing is hurricane season, like I just said. I never seen hurricane season. Typically, I am not a movie person. I am more of a TV person. I can sit and binge a series all day, but will I dedicate my time to watching a movie? I will not. But since I decided to, kind of stay the route of reviewing sports dramas, I was like, okay, let me review hurricane season. So come to find out, hurricane season is actually based on a true story on Coach Collins in Louisiana. For the gist of the movie takes place in Louisiana, New Orleans to be exact, and it is during 2006 when, during the time of Hurricane Katrina. This movie balanced life after devastation, family, and then trying to build a team and to make sure that your team is successful. So with Coach Collins, him and his wife and his daughter lived in New Orleans. And I think the movie took place 3 days before Katrina. And I think pretty much the school season or the basketball season was about to start. And so he was getting his team together. He was orchestrating practice and everything. But throughout the beginning of the film, you could hear news broadcast saying, okay, we're watching Hurricane Katrina. This storm is a category, whatever. But as, the days are getting closer, Hurricane Katrina is turning into a category 5. Now, during the time in which Katrina happened, I was currently residing in North Carolina. So my lens on Hurricane Katrina may not be, the exact thing, but I was definitely a teenager when it happened. So in 2006, I was 14 years old. And so with Katrina, there has been a lot of things said, and even like, how can I word it? Like, we're talking about Katrina and the devastation that was caused. It was said that the government didn't really take the necessary steps to make sure the people were evacuated from that area. I know in the movie it shows like the broadcast, but a lot of people also felt like, they've been through storms before down in that area. And so, they didn't think that it would be as devastating as it was because they had been through many storms before. And so a lot of people ended up displaced. A lot of people ended up having to leave their homes and everything that they knew and start a new life in a lot of states. And at the end of the movie, it said 25% of the people who, were involved in Katrina did not return to Louisiana. It's just the fact that the infrastructure failure was a big thing because the levees and the dams to keep the water, like the amount of water that flooded Louisiana was astonishing. Like, honestly, I probably would have been in that 25%. I probably wouldn't even went back. But either way, this movie did this movie did capture the devastation that Katrina caused and how different families got displaced and how some of the players left the area during that time, and then some of them came back during that time, and then some of them just didn't even come back. So I refer to Jackie's character as Esquire because I don't remember his name, and I don't even know if they even said his name in the movie. I'm sure he had a name, but I probably will refer to people based on prior characters that they played because this movie had a lot of people in it that I was familiar with, such as Forrest Whitaker, Taraji, Jasmine McLean, Lil Wayne was in the movie, Bow Wow was in the movie, Zero from Hoes was in the movie, Esquire from ATL was in the movie. And so basically after the hurricane was over, people was assessing the damages that was caused, and it was just so much more, a lot of stuff molded. But with all of the devastation going on, basketball was really the only joy that some of them had, because a lot of them had to stay in the homeless shelter. A lot of them were staying at the Superdome. A lot of them, got displaced and were in rundown buildings that didn't get, necessarily messed up all the way. And then a lot of them were sleeping in cars. It was just, a lot of them had like FEMA trailers, like they were eating MREs. It was just, it was a lot. So I did say OMG because y'all know Bow Wow was in this movie, and y'all know back in the day Bow Wow was that guy. Like Bow Wow, a lot of us had an affinity for Bow Wow, period. Okay, so now that I discussed Katrina, the players, FEMA sending MREs for people to eat instead of like real food, like having food, instead of the government sending food, shipping food. And I'm not going to say that that didn't happen because that was not depicted in the movie. I'm just saying what is depicted in the movie. Them not having food and them having MREs to eat, wild. Like, that's stuff that they give soldiers that's out there in the field, you know what I'm saying, for in the wilderness for days. That's stuff that they eat. People who, live everyday lives eating MREs is wild. Okay. So basically Esquire's character comes back to the school. The coach is trying to look at the gym and assess the damages. He asked him what time is practice, and coach was, pretty discouraged. He did not think that there was going to be a season because of all the devastation that was caused by the hurricane. But he pleaded with him and begged him, like, he was like, even if I have to have practice by myself, what time is practice? So they had him, and they called him White Boy. I'm just gonna say White Boy because they didn't really call him a name. White Boy was on the blacktop shooting. White Boy was on the team prior year, but he wasn't the best shooter, so the coach basically worked with him on, improving his shooting skills. Coach started his team with, I believe, 6 players. One of the players ended up coming from another school because at this time, because everything was so devastated, people were able to transfer to whatever schools they wanted to because their school might not have been open. So the coach started off with 6 players, and one of the players that ended up coming from another school, there was a rival coach also in the area that the coach had a little bit of friction with, but he ended up losing his job. And so one of the players from his team ended up going to Coach Collins' team. And so, spoke to Coach Collins, and his name was Brian. And Brian is pretty much the only character that we really got to know something about. I mean, they dibbled and dabbled in telling us a little bit. Like, for example, Bow Wow's character had a brother. His mama worked, she was a single mom. And they got displaced. They ended up going on a bus, going somewhere. I think they went to Houston. And then they ended up coming back to the area, after the water receded and everything like that. And then we had Zero, which I don't remember his character from the movie either, but Zero did not talk, and come to find out that his mother ended up losing her life in the Katrina hurricane, which is why he never spoke. And he also passed out in practice from eating MREs. Come to find out he was malnutrition, and it was because he was eating strictly only MREs. So that was the only, players that we really knew about. But Brian was the player that really gave Coach a hard time. And so, honestly, truthfully speaking, Brian really aggravated me because he was not for the team. And he was one of those players that was very selfish, very much into himself, very much, it's all about me. All y'all just, are just bonuses when it comes to like this whole basketball thing. And so I put Brian Daddy. Okay, so what happened was Brian ended up going in the game. The season had started. They decided they was going to play games. Brian's daddy was on him, Brian's daddy was on him. He wanted him in the game. He told him, this is our game. This is how we play. This is the style we play. Like, very much toxic athletic parent. Y'all know how you got some of them parents, they be hollering at their kids from the stands, telling their kids what to do, every waking move, coaching, like, don't let the coach do his job. And his daddy was not allowing the coach to do his job. And so Brian was just cutting up in the game, and the coach just ended up benching him for the rest of the game. And he was just like, if you don't get your act together, this will be your view for the rest of the season, because I'm not playing with you. Like, this will be your view for the rest of the season, and you can get used to it. Matter of fact, do you want some water? So, I put the rival coach from across town has the Patriot. Okay, so basically, the Patriots had seen some successes, but they had seen more losses. And it got to the point where, like, they were losing, like, bad. And it's because the team chemistry was messed up. And Brian was the number one contributor to why the team chemistry was messed up. Also, the captain of the team and Brian did not get along. They had some kind of thing where they talked about people being from one side of the river or other side of the river. I'm not from that area, so I'm not familiar with what they are referring to. But it kind of was like a territory, like gang like thing. I don't know. They would fight based off of, who was from where. And so the captain of the basketball team and Brian did not get along. They would not pass the ball to each other. And it was definitely affecting the chemistry and the style and the playmaking that the team, that the coach had for the team. And so basically, the Coach Collins went to the rival coach and asked him to pretty much help him and be a part of his coaching staff, to be his assistant coach. And so with that, the coach ended up giving him some film of the team they were going to end up playing. And so the friction between those two coaches, started to ease up a little bit. So after that, they can't keep playing with only 6 members of the team. So after that, Coach Collins and the assistant coach go around basically trying to recruit more players to be on the team. And so that's how we ended up getting Bow Wow, and we ended up getting one other character. I don't remember his name, but he didn't have many lines. But we ended up getting those two. And basically, at first, Bow Wow acted like he didn't want to play on the team. But then the coach kind of used reverse psychology on Bow Wow, and he ended up joining the team. Again, the team chemistry is still terrible. If you see me looking up, I'm looking up at my notes on my computer. The coach, so basically, in order to teach Brian a lesson, what they did was they had Brian play 5-on-1. And basically, this lesson was basically to teach Brian the way you play right now is the way you play in every game, and you play by yourself without your teammates, and you play against 5 people by yourself, and that's not how you win games, friend. It's just not. And so, first of all, I just want to say me and Brian had beef because Brian is indeed, the dude who played Brian is indeed the character from Tyler Perry's Temptation who gave Journey Smollett's character the package because he was nasty and crazy. But I had to separate the two. So I ain't like him in that movie and I ain't like him in this one either. But anyway. So, Brian got frustrated and walked out. And so, I think the coach ended up going to Brian's house. And so Brian ended up apologizing for the way he was acting. And so I thought that we had come to a common ground. Nope, Brian was still cutting up. So basically, at this point in the season, the team is 9-11, okay? They are not on their way to playoffs at this point. Like, they got a few more games for the regular season is over with. And if they want to end up going to playoffs, they got to win the next 8 games. So now we're at the part of the movie where, they're going to go on this whole basketball run. So we're going from game to game to game to game to game, basically, till we get to states or playoffs or, semifinals. And so Brian walks out on the team right before a game because, again, him and the captain are not getting along. And they had a discussion and was like, well, what is it as a team? What is it? How can we make the way we play on the court better? What is it? And so people start saying like what it was, on the team that they could fix. And so ended up, the captain and Brian ended up exchanging words and Brian walks out. And so Bow Wow's character chases Brian and was like, you gonna talk to me and tell me what it is so we can figure it out, because we are a team and you walking out on your team. And so basically Bow Wow kind of roughed him up a little bit until he was like, I'm playing for my brother. I was like, finally we have an answer. You're playing for your brother. Okay, what happened to your brother? Because before we got to this point, we hadn't seen Brian have any interaction with any family members except for his father. We don't know what happened to his mother. We don't know anything about his backstory. We don't know anything about anybody's backstory. So here Brian tells Bow Wow's character that his brother was an All-American. Like, his brother was like that in basketball. But, of course, with the area that they lived in, his brother ended up losing his life. And so his brother could not fulfill, the dream and everything that he had. And so his father was constantly on him, getting him up early in the morning to shoot a certain number of shots, making him get up at 5:30 in the morning to go and run suicides. He said until his feet bled. So basically his father was putting all of this pressure on him to be this top ranked player and to, stick out and to do things on his own and not play as a team, but to show off and be an all-star versus playing along with the team, all because of everything that happened to his brother. And so I was like, finally, we can get to a point where Brian is not aggravating the audience anymore because he's doing too much. So after that, they was like, Brian, the team, had compassion and empathy for Brian. They said, bro, we got your back. Like, we are a team. We are brothers. As long as you got our back, we got yours. Woo, 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 woo. All this happened right before the game. So then, Brian goes out. The team chemistry is A1 and they win the game. Okay, so from here on out, from this point on, we go into the States. I put Brian's father was his downfall. The conversation that Brian's father had after that game, after they won, he basically told Brian don't ask him for nothing else and that he was on his own. And I just thought that was terrible because I'm just like, the boy is playing for the betterment of the team and the team is winning. And you really came up to him and was like, do not ask me for nothing, you on your own. So basically, Coach Collins overheard the whole conversation that Brian had with the teammates, and he went to go meet with Brian's father. And Brian's father basically shunned everything that Coach Collins said, or so we thought. It wasn't until States happened where Brian's father showed back up because the moment was too big and he got over his ego and everything and ended up being there for his son. And so basically, when we get to States, there was a player in the beginning of the movie, and we didn't get much backstory on him either. There was a player in the beginning of the movie who was going to the same school, but after Katrina, he left because he was, I think, the #2 player in the nation. So his father took him off the Patriots and sent him to another school so he could be on another team because he said this was his senior year and he needed to get scholarships. So they end up playing that school in the state championship, and his name was Spencer. And so, I already said that part. So basically, Brian is basically looking at Spencer and was like, yeah, I know you, like, we finna go at it. Like, it's game time. You finna get these buckets. You finna get these handles. You finna get all of this. And so the game, they was dragging them in the beginning of the game. Actually, they dragged them the whole first half. Like, I think the players were really, really, really in their heads about what was going on. But it wasn't until Coach went in there during halftime and had a pep talk with them. And when I tell you he gave them a pep talk, he gave them a serious pep talk. And it was moving. And then that's when we finally heard Zero's character say his first line the whole movie. So then they start, getting hyped. They come out. They playing the game. They playing their game. And then it's down to the wire. I mean, seconds. And then the other team's coach calls a timeout. And he calls a play. And the assistant coach on the Patriots saw that he was subbing in a specific player. And he knew what play they was about to run. So then Forrest Whitaker's character, Coach Collins, calls another timeout to change the play that he had just had, that he set the players on the floor with, to make the adjustment. So Brian ended up saving the ball, saving the game, doing this play, and basically pitching the ball down court, and our boy was able to dunk that thing. I mean, when he got up there, okay? And I think they ended up winning the game by 1 or 2 points. The other team was trying to keep it in overtime, but they knew they needed a basket to win the game. And I think it was like maybe 10 seconds or less on the clock. But all in all, the Patriots ended up winning States. And like I said, this movie was based on a true story. So now to give it a rating, I'm not going to rate the movie, but hurricane season got a 69% in 2009 from Rotten Tomatoes when the movie first came out, or 70%. Oh, excuse me. It got a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Do I feel like that was a fair judgment? I do. And here's why. Was hurricane season a good sports movie? It was, and I like the fact that they brought awareness to Hurricane Katrina, especially for people who are not as familiar, and then people, in years to come who may not have been around during Hurricane Katrina and may not know the severity of it. I do feel like it showed the disenfranchisement of African Americans in that community, and it brought awareness to how little support that area got, especially from the government, from FEMA, and how people lost everything. They were displaced, and a lot of people are still, not back in New Orleans after that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people had to totally rebuild their lives. And for Katrina to be, I think we probably 15 years removed from Katrina, how life-changing of an event it was for people. I do think the movie did a good job capturing that. As for the basketball aspect, I feel like I did not get to know the players the way I wanted to. And I feel like even if Brian was like the primary character that we were supposed to get to know, I do feel like for it to be a team, we and the stories that could have come out of people being affected by Katrina, I feel like I wanted that. I feel like that's what I wanted. I wanted to know more about the lives of the players and, what they were going through. And then, with them not getting along because, when you're on a team and y'all have a goal, the chemistry of the team is the most important part, and how well y'all gel and mesh together. And for a majority of the movie, they were not gelling. And the gelling didn't happen until the very end of the movie. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more brotherhood. Because honestly, like, my teammates were, at the time when I was playing basketball, my teammates were everything. Like, those were like my closest friends at one point in time. So like, to see that not happening, I mean, I know that's not the case with every team and that's very unrealistic, but that was also a part of the story. We didn't get to see them gelling. We saw a lot of the dysfunction with them, but we didn't get to see as much of the gelling, because they did eventually gel. We didn't get to see as much of the gelling like we did the dysfunction. So I wish we could have seen a little bit more of that. Also, the movie wasn't that long. The movie was only an hour and 44 minutes. So maybe with the additional 15 minutes, we could have gotten more of that. But I'm not here to complain. The movie overall was good. Like I said, I do think the 70% from Rotten Tomatoes was a fair justification. And I did like the characters in the movie, except for Brian, because he was annoying. But I do overall like the movie. I do recommend this movie. I mean, it's not like my favorite sports drama, but it's not bad. So, yeah, y'all, that's my review on hurricane season. I hope everything I said made sense. And as far as me taking notes, I tried to mostly take notes on the points that stuck out to me. So I did cover 25 points, if you were wondering. But yeah, y'all. So, like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more. I will be reviewing more sports dramas and sports TV shows, sports movies. So stay tuned. Deuces.